This is part 2 of my morning walk series with my horizontal filming now. This is the neighbor's house. This is the trail I go on. I'm walking it backwards for the sun's sake. And today I'm going to talk about my first session with Adam and what happened and how that but like gave me permission slip to change my life. Oh, I love this neighbor's house. Check out this. These little dogs are so funny. Yes, I'm giving you a tour of our little neighborhood. Oh, so back to my session with Adam. So once I saw him and he smiled and I did my interview with Adam, he put me into this state of vulnerability because I had tried to put Adam into a box. Because, I saw him, I'm like, oh, okay, here's this hot hippie healer who only, has this, who looks a certain way. So I'm only going to allow him to help me this much. Well, what Adam went on to share with me is that he has a whole range of experience that qualified him to help me. And what floored me is he's like, oh, after college I moved to Costa Rica to teach and things like that. I was like, oh, where'd you go to school? He's like, oh, a small school called Duke University. And he said it in such a way that, really, Duke? So all of a sudden Adam did not fit within my box of what a hippie looked like. Hippies don't go to Duke in my somehow created box of beliefs. And so at that point, I was like, oh shit, man, game's changed. My rules of what I thought in the world weren't right. So my rules of engagement in life were different because here a hot hippie healer was intelligent, and so that got me vulnerable. So we sat down in our session and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And Adam says, do nothing. I'm like, well, what does that look like? I needed the list of what doing nothing looked like. Do you cross your legs when you do nothing? What does that even mean? And so he's like, just do nothing. And so my first attempt at doing nothing was a worry about, oh shit, do I have enough money to pay him? Does he take a credit card? And all this was going on. All this was going on in my internal dialogue as I was sitting here, that was masquerading as nothing. And then he says to me, you're doing too much. So I'm like, oh crap, this hot hippie smart healer can read my mind. Great. So I sat there, I'm like, all right, I can do this whole doing nothing thing. So I sat and I was being. And I just let my thoughts go. All of a sudden, I start seeing visions. Of myself barefoot, pregnant, living in Costa Rica, and married to this hot hippie healer who's working on me. I'm like, holy shit. Did I just drag the hot hippie healer into my little healing vision? I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad. He can read my mind. And so after the session was over, I turned around. The first thing I did, I turned around to Adam like, do you read minds or what exactly do you do? And he just kind of smiled and laughed and I'm like, oh my God, what was that? Now keep in mind, when I went into my session with Adam, I was only prepared to open up maybe 60%, because I wanted to look a certain way. I was like, oh, look at the hot hippie healer. I want to look good for him. I want to make sure he doesn't see the laundry list of things I need to take care of in my, emotional to-do list. But needless to say, Adam kind of steamrolled right past all that shit and saw right through me anyway. So we began to talk, and kind of what he saw was, it's like, really? How did I let that out, man? I'm going to tell you an example. So let's back up 2 weeks before I met Adam. Whoa, I almost fell. I was spending Thanksgiving with the family of the gentleman who I was dating at the time. Amazing guy, such a great guy. Great for me on paper, you know, and his family was incredible, and, you know, so we celebrated an early Christmas. And his mom got me a present. She was so sweet. And so she said to me, "Oh my gosh, Harriet, you know, I saw this thing at the store and it reminded me of you, and I knew I had to get it for you." I was like, "Oh man, these people know me so well. That's so rad." I open up the present and take it out. It is a fluorescent pink tube top dress with a chiffon scarf. I'm like, wow, really? This is what you think of when you see me? So needless to say, it was a bit of a surprise that was how his family saw the perfect present for me. So I took that dress, you know, took it to my spa, hung it up. I'm like, gosh, guys, you know, this is what my boyfriend of almost a year's family sees as the perfect gift for me. You know, it's kind of, everyone kind of laughed and they're like, "Oh, Harriet, whatever." So during my second session with Adam in Costa Rica a year ago, you know, after our healing, he said, "You know, I saw a pink dress. Does that mean anything to you?" I'm like, what? I mean, really? Does that even... So it's not the kind of thing where, like, people used to say, "Oh, those sort of healers, they just say such general things," and no. It's, you don't just throw out visions of a pink dress and expect it to relate to everyone. Wow. Walking this trail backwards, totally different experience, man. Isn't this beautiful? So after that, you know, I was blown away. And so I invited Adam to do a massage with me that night. You know, because I didn't have enough cash to pay him, and he didn't take a credit card. And so I gave him a massage that night, and it turned out to be like a 3-hour massage of just the incredible experience I've ever had with someone. And, you know, that night he said, "I want you to spend some part of tomorrow with me." And, as I said, I was with Don Miguel Ruiz on this trip, so I felt like such a little rebel, and, you know, getting away from the group, I'm like, yeah, no problem. And so we spent some of the day together. And so we went out to dinner with some of his friends. I'm crossing the stream, hold on. And when we were out to dinner, his buddies were like, "Oh, happy birthday, Adam," and things like that. I'm like, "Oh, it's your birthday? You didn't say it was your birthday." He goes, "Oh yeah." And I said, how old are you?" He goes, "I'm 27. I'm like, "What?" You know, you do know, well, I'm not 27. I haven't been 27 in quite some time. He's like, "Oh, you know, the body's just a vessel." What? You know, me who's in the spa business, beauty world, what have you. Come on, baby. You know, to be told that the body is just a vessel, and, you know, you don't need to, what, blah, blah, blah. It was a big deal to me, because, you know, I made age mean all sorts of stuff, and so we spent that day together, and, you know, it was incredible. It was as if this person, you know, had a complete radar for what was happening in my brain at all times, and could automatically zero in and say, you know, "Hey, Harriet, stop thinking about this," or "Hey, Harriet, stop thinking about that," in the most gentle, loving way. And yeah, so it was incredible. So I extended my trip in Costa Rica. I sent a Dear John email, and officially ended my other relationship, which is what, my session with Don Miguel Ruiz helped show me. And I stayed in Costa Rica for a couple days. And then I got home, Skyped with Adam a couple times. I had two options at that point. I could see Adam as this little vacation romance, or I could actually give this thing a chance, whatever it was. So we talked, and it was, we're like, yeah, we miss each other. And so I booked a trip for him to come to Utah end of January. And then we talked, several times a day after that, and I'm like, man, I miss you. I want you here sooner. And he's like, well, you can make that happen. So I did. So Adam arrived in Utah a couple days before Christmas. Sorry. And then we went to Chicago and spent Christmas with his family. He introduced me as his future wife. We're meeting 40 of his relatives in, downtown Chicago. And you're like, oh, how long have you and Adam known each other? I'm like, oh, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 16 days? And it didn't matter. It's almost like I had been saying, oh, 3 years. It just, what we make of the stories is up to us. And so in my previous existence, I would have made, oh, I need to be dating someone this long to even think about marriage, or I need to be, he's this many years younger than me, so there's no way I could date him. Bust apart all those stories and just start living your life according to how you feel about something. And that's what being with Adam has helped me learn, is to enjoy my life in the now and enjoy every moment together and stop, behaving according to these arbitrary set of rules that I put in place for myself. And yeah, so that is how my first session, a little bit of my first session with Adam began, how that kind of set the stage for us creating our life together. And it's completely possible and doable. And Adam does Skype sessions, and they're available. And just reach out to me if you want to do a Skype session with him. So cheers to embracing all opportunities to change your life, and love and light. Namaste.